Hi, my name is Erica. For those of you who are new to my channel, this is part 3 in a recent Get to Know Me mini-series I've been doing. I'll leave parts 1 and 2 linked below so you can check those out first. So my husband and I were in a long-distance relationship for pretty much all of our dating years, right up until pretty much the day we got married. For our first anniversary this year, I decided to compile a small photo journal detailing the journey to our wedding day. It was quite a process to go through with some unexpected twists and turns along the way, so I wanted to take the time to document it in somewhat of a story form. This is that story. So we got married on May 22nd of 2020. And we were so excited. But before we get too excited about the big day, let's rewind a bit, back to May 23rd, 2019, the day of our engagement. There was a lot of work to be done before we could get married, and it had actually nothing to do with planning the wedding. As a Canadian citizen, I had to apply for a special visa in order for us to be able to get married in the States. As a part of that paperwork, Jeremiah had to write out a brief version of our love story. This is what he wrote. I first met my fiancée, Erica, in September of 2013 in the start of my second year of school at the Evangelical Institute of Biblical Training in Greenville, South Carolina, at the start of Erica's first year. I was just starting with my walk with the Lord and was determined not to date anyone while in school so that I could get to know God. I didn't know it at the time, but Erica had a crush on me since shortly after we met. I first took notice of her when we were looking at a map in the library. She was showing me where she lived. Another thing I didn't know at the time was how far away that was going to be. There was something about her that sparked something, but we still didn't let each other know that we had feelings for each other. After I graduated, we didn't talk very much, but I came back to Greenville for Erica's graduation ceremony in 2015. I made it a point to hang out where she was. We found each other on Facebook Messenger and started texting quite often. Our conversations consisted of what hobbies we were pursuing, how we were continuing to learn through the books we were reading, and sermons we might be listening to that week. There was a lot of small talk, and we also talked on more serious topics, but underlying it all, we grew to be more attracted to each other. Then I asked Erica to date me on February 1st in 2016, and we finally got to see each other for the first time since her graduation at the end of March 2016 for about a week, and a couple more times throughout that summer. During some of her trips to Wisconsin, we enjoyed motorcycle rides and road trips, but that came to an end in November of 2016 when we broke up. Erica and I would still communicate very briefly during that time, but it was usually short text to see how the other was doing, and an occasional phone call. I had started a job at Little Wolf Automotive, with the employer knowing that I was going to volunteer at Northland Camp and Conference Center that summer. My employer told me I had a job when I came back if I wanted it, that I accepted when I came back. The day that I was going to head for camp, it just so happened that Erica was visiting a friend near Milwaukee, and we met up for an hour or so. We had intentions of getting back together, and we tried writing letters that summer, but it didn't seem to work for us. We didn't see each other again until September of that year when Erica was back visiting her friend near Milwaukee and I was done volunteering. When I first pulled up to take her to church, I felt very nervous. After we started talking and catching up, though, it was like no time had passed and we fell right back in love. For several weeks, I would make the 2-hour drive to see her on Wednesdays and Sundays, with an occasional Saturday. In October, Erica went back home and we would have our phone calls during the week and our Sunday afternoon Skype dates. We would visit each other every couple months and hang out with friends and family. Gradually, we learned to trust each other more as we became more involved in each other's lives. In December of 2018, Erica and her family came for a week to visit me and to meet my family in Wisconsin. I started to see how well we worked together. After that visit, we began to seriously think about getting married. On my last trip to Canada in March of 2019, I asked her dad if I could marry her. He and his wife consented. Even though Erica and I had already started planning our wedding to a small degree, I still hadn't bought the ring. I proposed on May 23rd, 2019, when Erica came to visit me in Wisconsin. So, how did he propose, you might ask? We went for a morning walk to the beach, where we stood quietly on the dock for what seemed like an eternity to me. Apparently, he was waiting for the sun to come out from behind the clouds. I knew by this point what was coming and tried to wait patiently for whatever he was waiting for. Eventually, he turned me towards him as he got down on one knee. He asked, pulling out the ring, and I looked him in the face and said yes. With my visa paperwork finally in the mail, the next several months consisted of Jeremiah coming to visit me and my family in Alberta. He came for a quick visit once in early September 2019 and came again for Christmas of that year. In January of 2020, we met up in Montreal, Quebec for my interview at the U.S. Embassy. After a slightly confusing time trying to figure out our transportation, we were able to catch a bus from the airport to the hotel where I had booked rooms for us. I was very thankful to know Jeremiah was close by and that I wasn't trying to navigate the city by myself. We found a really nice restaurant close by and enjoyed a delicious dinner together. The next day, after passing my interview, we met up with a friend of mine that was also in Montreal with her husband. They had a rental car, and we had such a good time touring around the old city with them. After coming back from Montreal, I finally started the process of designing and sewing my dress. Originally, we had planned for a mid-May wedding, I believe. We changed the date at least one or two more times before finally settling on April 25th, 2020. I made invitations and we started sending them out to friends and family. Then the COVID pandemic hit with hard travel restrictions and our plans came to a screeching halt. We didn't know what to do or how long to wait. April 25th came and went and we still had no plan. My dress wasn't even done. Finally, May 14th, my mom came to me and told me I needed to just book a ticket and fly down. We needed to just get married already, regardless if my parents could be there. I talked to Jeremiah about it, and he agreed. The next day, I booked one of the few flights available for the following week, from Edmonton to Milwaukee. And we started planning the wedding for Friday evening, May 22nd. The next several days were filled with a mad rush of last-minute packing and saying goodbye to friends and family, and putting the final touches on my dress with the help of my mom and her best friend. While this ended up being a very quick decision, it was not an easy one, but we were working with the knowledge that we had in those moments and trusting that the Lord was guiding our steps. I landed in Milwaukee around 8:30 or 9 p.m. on Wednesday, May 20th. The next 48 hours were a whirlwind of applying for a marriage license, figuring out where to have the wedding, getting decorations ready, booking a photographer, planning food, inviting guests, and settling into what would soon to become our apartment. I still don't know how we did it. But the evening of May 22nd came, and one of the things I've said oftentimes since then is for how imperfect everything was, this evening turned out pretty perfect. I am so thankful I have these photos. Our photographer was a old acquaintance of Jeremiah's, and he really came through for us, agreeing to do our photos just days before the wedding day. So back home in Alberta, family and friends gathered at the church to watch the live stream. They celebrated with a small reception of their own afterwards. The wedding was not what we had planned, but we made the most of our circumstances. The ceremony was short and sweet, with a handful of friends and family attending. We had a time of mingling afterwards in the parking lot, enjoying desserts and visiting with guests. It was a beautiful evening. Seriously, we could not have asked for better weather. And that is our story. I realize this is really the condensed version. And so if there's interest, if there's a lot of questions that were left unanswered, feel free to pop them in the comment section down below, and Jeremiah and I may do a relationship or wedding Q&A at some point in the future. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.